We're going to do a great painting today, and let's go ahead and just get started. Well, I'm using a combination of blue and midnight black on my stretch 16 by 20 canvas, already coated with a thin, even coat of the liquid white. That allows us to blend and mix color right on the canvas. Just like that, we're putting in a nice basic sky, just a little bit of phthalo blue and black. And I'm going to grab a little bit more of the phthalo blue, just beat it right into the brush. I think we're going to have a little bit of water today, so I'll just pull this horizontally from the side into the center, and then do the other side. Once again, keeping the brush nice and straight and flat, so we get a nice blend of color here, leaving a little spot in the middle. I think that's going to be a nice little sunshiny streak running through there. And then I just bring the brush straight across, bring some of that blue into the middle, but it should stay a little bit lighter. And you can always come back here and add a little bit more blue to the water if you want it a little bit darker. I think today let's just go nice and pale. Okay? And I just run the brush from the middle on up. Again, making a nice transition here. And I tell you what, we can even change this up a little bit. Add a little bit of darker color into the corner. And we'll put a little into this corner, just to help draw the eye into the center of the scene here. And then we'll go ahead and, with our fan brush, I'm going to take just the tiniest amount of the bright red and then load the brush up with titanium white. I can't have a bright sunshiny sky here without a couple of fluffy clouds, so I'm just stirring this brush, just mashing it in little circles here, loading the brush up and getting some of this titanium white to come off, pushing it in there. Now we're just going to take a clean dry brush, there we go, and using the top corner of the brush we're going to blend down the bottom of the cloud, just blending it, stirring it in there. There we go. And using the full width of that brush right up on the top there, we just fluff this cloud up. And then we finish it off with a very, very gentle side-to-side motion. There we go. Had so much fun with that one. Let's go ahead and let's put in another one. Say right about here. Maybe this is part of the same cloud. Maybe we can add a second little fluffy cloud, kind of coming in from off the side there. Let's see what that does. Stir this down. And stir this one down too. I think that's part of that first cloud. And then we fluff. There we go. Fluff it up, help sit those streaky clouds down. The little chunks of paint there. There we go. Go right on over it. There we go. Just like that, we've got a pretty little sky going. And the fluffy clouds and all that good stuff. So I got a color out here. It's a combination of, well, basically all the dark colors. We've got some blue and some black and some brown, a little bit of crimson in there. Just cut off a nice little roll of paint. Let's build ourselves a nice strong mountain today. Just pushing this paint right into the fabric. Push that paint right into the weave. Okay? Tell you what, let's have a little second peek there. Push it all in. Just work your way down a little bit, finding a nice clean outside edge. And I think over here we'll have a third peak. Redefine that ridge line, the peaks, where we think we're going to have our mountain. And then you can hear how hard I'm scraping it here. We just want to get rid of all that excess paint. Okay, pushing it right into the fabric, and then we get rid of all the rest. Let me go ahead and clean the brush real quick. This is the fun part. Now Bob had a whole studio that he could cover with the mineral spirits. I use a a trash can there with a piece of pipe running through it. Now look at this. You can just draw this mountain out. We're removing excess paint and then pulling the paint down to form the general shape of our mountain. And I can just clean my brush right down there. Right down here at the base. And we don't really know what peaks are going to be where quite yet. That's okay. We're not worried about sketches or drawings or anything. We just sort of let things happen. Clean my brush slightly just to knock off excess paint. And down here, I'm just sweeping across to create a nice blend. I think there's going to be some mist and fog here. But just like that, we grew a mountain. I've got a green thumb. I can't grow anything in the garden, but I can grow a mountain. Okay. We'll come back here and let's get a little bit of the titanium white. Pull it right on out flat, just as we need to get a nice flat area here, like paper thin. Tiniest bit of the bright red. Let's get this little bit of the bright red and let's blend that out to a nice flat surface. Clean the old knife. And we're going to put highlights on the mountain. Each peak needs a highlight and a shadow. So I get a little roll of paint, and with the lightest of touches, we're here just to hold the brush and let gravity do the work for us. So just touch, let the paint come on down, and it creates all these little breaks and holes. Touch, rotate, and then just let the knife drop. See that? Very, very simple. You just let the tools do the work. That way you don't have to worry about it. With a little bit of practice, you'll be making mountains, just huge mountains anytime you want. Okay, got to have a little bit on that peak right there. And we're also going to have to create a little shadow here. Every peak needs a highlight and a shadow. Let's get a little bit of the blue and the black, and we're just going to loosely mix this together. Find a color that works for us. You want it a little bit more blue than black? That's fine. You can darken it with any of your dark colors to add whatever tint you want. I'm looking for a little bit of blue, maybe a couple of streaks of dark. We'll see how that goes. Once again, a little roll of paint. Come right on up to where the highlight is, and just follow the top edge of the mountain. Pulling down a little bit here. Now watch this. I want to push this peak back. I want this peak to be behind this one. I just changed my mind. So I come right on up here, just pull directly through it, and right there you can move that mountain. You just moved the whole thing to behind the main peak here. And if you want, you can always move it back. You can play around with this. With this being oil paints, you've got all the time in the world to mix and match and change whatever you want. Get a little tiny shadow on that first peak, couple little touches here and there. Even with the short edge of the knife, you can drop in a few little things. What I like to do, I like to come back and get a little bit of the highlight color. Let's change this up. We'll just take this, let's change that, turn that into a highlight. You can go right on over the shadow. Just change it up and create a little ridge line anytime you want. And you can make it come out. Just bring it on back to the right. That's where we're going to see the brightest snow, because that's the direction our light is coming from. Whenever you create a highlight, you got to come back and make a new distinct shadow for that new highlight you just put on there. Strengthen it up, a little bit of white, a little bit of dark. You can even come in here and very lightly touch and pull a little bit of that highlight over the top of the shadow. Creates a nice little look. Then what we'll do is we're going to tap, following the angles of our shadow side, and sweep. And all that does is push that mountain back. This mountain is supposed to be far away in this painting today, and we're going to sort of make that happen just with a couple of simple little taps and sweeps. Taps and sweeps. And all this down here just blends away into nothingness. Okay? What we didn't paint becomes part of the painting. It's going to become mist and fog and all that good stuff. So we're moving right along, and we're going to go ahead and we'll take a little 1-inch brush here. I'm going to take a little bit of the brown, maybe a little bit of the green. We're going to pull it right through that dark mountain color. Change it up a little bit. Get a little change of color in there. Don't need a lot of paint, just tapping some of it in and using the lightest of touches. We just push in, bend those bristles, and just make sort of an arc shape. Just a little round shape, and a series of round shapes. They don't all have to be the exact same size. Put a little bit of paint on at a time, and just mash that brush. Make some shapes. All this is going to be the shadows of a bunch of trees and bushes. Not a lot of detail. The more detail you put, the closer they'll look. So I think maybe we will put a little extra detail in there just to make it look like nice close-up bushes right before our waterline. And you'll notice down here I'm pushing, just cleaning my brush a little bit, getting a little bit of color the opposite direction, because I think we're going to have a nice little reflection of some of these. So you just make the general idea, and then we'll take our 2-inch brush, very gently pull straight down. Pull straight down. Makes that half that we just put in there instant reflections. Pull it down, and then we very gently, 2 hairs and some air, as Bob likes to say, we sweep across just to diffuse that. Hypnotize it. There we go. And what we're going to do next, let's put some highlights on there. So I'm going to take another clean 1-inch brush. I dip it straight down into my liquid white, and using one pull direction only, I pull the liquid white into the cadmium yellow. Grab just a very light touch of green. We want this a nice bright one to start. Nice bright yellow color. Perfect. And now using a very light touch, I'm just touching the canvas slightly above the dark. Make a little round shape. Come underneath, make another little arc. And right there, we've got a little bush hiding way back there. And we can just tap a little bit of extra on the reverse side. That's going to be our reflection. So now I'm going to grab a little bit more green, and I'm going to mix it in with that yellow, and just like that, we change the color. We change the color. Reload the brush. Change it as much or as little as you like. Now I can put in a nice tree or bush right next to it, and it's different. It looks different. It's not just the same color we did before. We're going to have a little multitude of colors. And the paintbrush is picking up a little bit of that dark and changing it for us, but anytime you want, you can change up the color. Let's put a nice one over on this side too. A little bit of reflection. Now what I'm going to do, a little tiny bit of the liquid white, and I'm going to bring that into the yellow ochre. Nice yellow ochre, maybe a little bit of that yellow in there. Load a brush up. Let's do a little bit right there. Okay. And we'll do another little bush in front of it, leaving a little bit of dark. That's our separator. And then we'll just tap a little bit of reflection in there. And I think on the other side here, I'm just going to start mixing in a little bit of the bright yellow with the yellow ochre, just to change up the mix. have variation in there. Oh, that one climbed right up the mountain, right on over the top. And because this is thinner paint, it just falls right out the brush. All right. Take my 2-inch brush and very, very gently, just enough to diffuse the highlights here, barely touching. I want to try to get some detail to stay in the reflection rather than be just a big blob of color, which still works, but I just want to see if I can get a nice little blend there and still see some individual leaves, maybe a couple here or there. So with a very small amount of the titanium white, I just want to saw in, using the edge of the knife, I just want to saw a little line right where the bushes or trees meet the water. Keep this nice and straight. Just saw it in there, and it doesn't have to be that big. You don't want it 6 inches thick. Just a little semblance, little idea that there's a little water lapping up on the shore there. But it's a little too far away to see too much more detail or beach or anything like that. So we're going to hop right ahead, and we're going to mix up a nice big batch of color here. This is just that same mountain mix color. Throw a little black in there, a little phthalo blue, some brown, a little bit more of the green. We're just going to mix those colors together, gather it up on our palette. There we go. And we're going to load a fan brush full of color, both sides of the brush, working it in there till we have a very full brush to a chiseled edge. And we'll come in here. Let's make some ideas, some evergreens. And these are just the tops. We just need a center line there, because what we use is the corner of the brush. Kind of dance this in, tapping from the center and working our way out. As we get lower, we tap a little bit harder, and that's going to create the illusion here of branches getting bigger and bigger as we come down. Okay? As we tap in those, we got to decide how many trees are we going to see today. I think this one will be right on off to this side. Maybe there's one way behind there, just like that. And we just tap and we fill in the gaps there. And I think there's going to be a little bit of a projection coming out here. And this projection will allow us to put in a little bit of reflection of these trees. So I'm just pushing upward this time, just to get a general shape of the land and the reflection of the trees. There we go. I can push that a little bit, give a little bit of grassiness, a little bit of, oh, little happy accident. And we'll just grow that a little bit. That's very nice. And we'll go ahead and let's put another one over here. I think we'll have a projection on both sides today. This is a great first-timers painting. Lets you practice with all the different tools in the Bob Ross arsenal. Get to have a lot of fun trying out all these different techniques. Loading the brush several times if you need to, just to make sure that this stays nice and dark. And this one's going to live out here too. There we go, a little projection. And, oh, I think there we go. Something like that. And I think we'll have let's have a little baby tree right over here. He just getting started in life, so he's not going to be so big. But over here, I think we'll have a daddy tree. And we'll just bring him all the way up, taller than all of them. You can make these trees small, skinny, short and squat, whatever you like, just by how you tap the brush. Down here we can just fill all this stuff in and separate it with the reflections. So let's go ahead and put a couple of reflections down here. The little baby tree might be seeing a stalk or two. This one a little bigger, and this one here we're just going to put in some extra. There we go. And we'll take a little bit of that same color with the 1-inch brush, and maybe we'll make a couple little bushy shapes and grass and stuff down here. Maybe we'll see some of that too. Tap in a little bit extra down here just to reflect something or other. Take our 2-inch brush and with a very gentle touch pull some of that straight down and then pull across. Bring this one straight down and then gently diffuse it by pulling across horizontally. All right. Now, using the fan brush and a little bit of the liquid white, we're going to create a highlight color just as we did for the bushes up here. Get a nice little highlight color, plenty of green. You can even grab a little bit of blue, watch that. And that makes a very interesting green color. I like it. All right, so we have our color prepared. We'll go ahead and use our knife. Just stretch these trees up, give it that nice little center stalk. People are going to wonder, how the heck did you do that? And with a very tiny amount of the Van Dyke Brown, let's put a semblance of a trunk or two. Maybe we'll see a little bit of trunk hiding, peeking through, but not much. Not much. Take a little bit of the dark sienna and a little bit of white, and we can put in maybe a touch of highlight to that trunk. Very small amount. We're not going to be able to see too much. These are big, dark trees with lots of hanging down limbs. We're not going to see too much in the way of trunk highlights. So we'll go ahead and drop in a little bit of highlight here and there, not everywhere. Just where you think we're going to have some of these branches being kissed there by the sun, but there's still going to be lots and lots of shadow. Let's do this little guy here first. He sees a little bit of sun. Over here, there we go. And then we move right along to the big tree. He's going to see lots of sun right up on that top. And as we come down here, it mixes with the shadow color and automatically gets darker and darker. There we go. All right, so what we're going to do is we need to get the highlight color out onto the lake as well. So using that brush, and this time just pushing up a little bit, just throw in a couple of little ideas. Maybe we'll see a little bit of reflection. Not much, not much. As I pull a little bit of that down, there we go. As you pull it down, it automatically gets darker. So don't worry about it being too bright at first. It will dull itself as you sweep across. And we'll take our 1-inch brush here. I'm going to bring it right on in to that same color. A little bright yellow. It's got a whole bunch of mixtures of colors now, which is awesome. It really helps make it look natural when you have a wide variety of colors. And if you don't have enough paint, remember, you got to have a lot of paint. A lot of paint and very little pressure. That's the key. Okay, I'm going to pull a little bit more green in there. There we go. Perfect. Nice summery green one there. Comes right on down. Maybe we'll see a little bit of reflection. Of course, and a little bit of yellow reflection there. Perfect. I think over here, I'm going to go right back in as we did before. A little bit of yellow ochre, a little bit of green, a little bit of yellow. Maybe we'll have a nice little bushy line that fills in a big portion of that with all that golden color. And we can't have a bob painting here without a firecracker. We need a nice sparkler. So I clean my brush really quick, and just with a half a drop of paint thinner. We don't want to lighten it up. Well, maybe you do. If you wanted a pink one, use a little bit of liquid white. If you want to keep it nice and brilliant red, just a little bit of paint thinner, just enough to get a little sparkler right off onto the canvas. And then maybe we'll have a little one coming down. Whole bunch of different reflections in there. Okay. Little bit of red reflection down there too. And I take my 2-inch brush now, very gently pull that down into reflections. Oh, I think I missed the spot. Missed a little reflection right there. No problem. Pull some of that down and then very gently pull across. And a nice little reflection going on in there. I'm going to take a little bit of brown. And just before that line, I put a little bit of brown right on over the line between the bushes and their reflections. And I'm just going to sweep a little bit of this earth, a little bit of dirt, just pull it right on out, pulling a little bit more to the side than down. And that's going to give us a nice separator between the bushes and the water. Using a very small amount of that white and dark sienna, cut off a little roll of paint and just let this dance over. Just let it hit a couple of spots. Adds a little bit of highlight. There we go. Okay. I'm going to use the small knife here and a little bit of that titanium white. Scratch in a nice little water line. Pushing a little firmer, and that paint just slides right out the side of the knife, right out the corner. Small amount, don't need much. Just like that. Over here, strengthen it out a little bit. And we can even throw in a little splashy right there, right where the fishy will come out. Okay. Blend that back a little bit. Sit those reflections down a little bit. And just like that, in a little less than 29 minutes, or a little less than 30 minutes, we have a completed painting. So I'll take my brush and I will sign it. A little bit of the paint thinner, a little bit of the bright red. Put it right down here. I just put my initials, little T, little S, and the year. And just like that, we have a completed painting.